Hey guys, it's Kenny Clark with the Green Bay Packers, and you're listening to the Packer Fan Podcast.
Sadly, our season has come to a close, and I wish I could say we went out with a bang, but that's not the case. We'll quickly recap the unfortunate events of the NFC Championship game, listen to some listener feedback from all of you, and try our best to come up with some positivity about the Packers season, all next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
We are your Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your Green Bay Packers. Wayne Henderson here from MediaVoiceovers.com. And folks, like John Locke once said on Lost, that's not what was supposed to happen.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm Scott Clark from The Gaming Outsider, and this is the 201st edition of the Packers Fan Podcast, recorded January 20th, 2020. Look at that, all that 20s. And to say I'm disappointed is a bit of an understatement, but I'm trying my hardest to channel my inner Wayne Henderson and see the bright side of the situation. On this edition of the Packers Fan Podcast, we'll talk about the loss against the Niners, which unfortunately kept us out of the Super Bowl this year. We'll also share our thanks for an incredible season with the best Packers community out there.
And as always, we'll share your great listener feedback, and we have episode show notes with time codes at PackersFanPodcast.com and in the details area of your podcast player. And wow, there's not really very many highlights from the fiasco in Frisco.
No, the only real positive I can have from the game is that it looked like we had a chance to mount a comeback there in the fourth quarter, not corner, fourth corner. What sport are we playing? Boxing. And I was getting a little excited. Could something happen here? But we just could not stop that offense. As soon as we get a score on the board, they just answer right back, and I couldn't make anything happen. It was very frustrating.
Yeah, for a little while in the third quarter, I thought this could be the miracle we've been waiting for. What if? But no. I mean, it was, from the coin toss and deferring and the very beginning of the game, it just was not our day. The Packers need to figure out how to win on the West Coast because Rams, Chargers, Niners, not good.
Yeah, there's nothing that went right. Like I said, until the fourth quarter when it looked like Rodgers was trying to put something together, kept doing that deep ball. There was that like 80 or 90 yard pass down there that felt really good. I'm like, oh, I ain't heard no fat lady. But then she started singing, and that's pretty much all she wrote. So not too much highlights to talk about, but plenty of lowlights. I want to start with J.K. Scott. He had a 20-yard punt from right in front of the end zone. What happened to J.K. Scott?
Well, he seems to be the last person on the team to catch the flu. It made it through everybody else last week and the week before, and then he had it, and there was all this talk that he was likely not going to play, and then at the last minute, he decided he's going to try to go, and I don't know if the flu had something to do with it. He did not, the expression on his face most of the game, he did not look like he was feeling 100%. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, fair enough. You hate to see the sickness. I don't even know who would have been punting.
I know.
if he hadn't been there, because I was looking at the roster and I don't even see a reserve punter. So I don't know. Have Mason Crosby back there punting the ball in that case, but glad he was able to do it. But I was shocked because he's been so rock solid this season, just sticking it, within the 20-yard line on the opposite side, and just some booming punts that stay in the air for quite a long time to allow the special teams to get down there and keep it from advancing any further. But it was a travesty. It was just one of many things that just nothing could go right for the Packers in this game.
Especially
absolutely
nothing. The entire first half was an absolutely nothing. In the second half, it was almost absolutely nothing could go right.
I mean, what were they up by? We had a big old goose egg up until like the very end of the second quarter. It was embarrassing. We did not look like a 13-3 team. We did not look like an NFC Championship playing team. It just felt like, I don't know, were we overconfident? Were we
I
not dialed in?
After what has gone wrong when we flew out to the West Coast to play the Rams and the Chargers and then Niners earlier this year, I don't think we were overconfident. I hope that we were not underconfident, but whatever the scheme was just didn't work.
Right. And to be fair, the Niners are a force to be reckoned with. They are a solid team. I mean, you may not like me saying this, Wayne, but
I don't.
The better team won here.
No, maybe the team with more experienced players and game plan won, but the better team,
sure.
The 49ers, man, I need them to lose in the Super Bowl. The 49ers fans, I haven't heard a peep from a lot of the 49ers fans here in my area for like 5 years. And now all of a sudden they act like they never went away. Whereas we represent the Packers, win or lose, we're always supporting our team. But these bandwagoners, I just don't know.
I hear you, and I have the luxury of not living in California, so I don't have to deal with that quite as much. Although, shockingly, I do have about 5 or 6 friends in the area that are all Niners fans and have been diehard Niners fans for as long as I've known them.
See, and that's okay.
But they're also not trash talking, and you know, I mean, I had somebody send me a meme that was, you know, a San Francisco cheese grater with a pile of cheese next to it, that kind of thing. But
vicious.
It's not like when the Bears. I mean, I had Bears fans that were worse than the Niners fans. You know, a friend of mine, a guy I used to work with, posted something about to the effect of "Happy Green Bay Packers Elimination Day," and that was before the game started.
Wow.
You know, there's something to be said about rivalry and banter and trash talk, but I don't know. Bears fans take it to another level, and it also cracks me up when they didn't even make the playoffs, and you're trash talking, so it doesn't make any sense.
There's that, and how about the mighty Jimmy Garoppolo and all of those fabulous passes? And was he even there?
I don't even remember him passing the ball at all. I mean, I was watching the game for sure.
Yeah.
You tend to not focus as much once it starts to become a slaughter. But I was thinking back, I don't remember any pass plays. All I remember is them just running all over our defense on the ground. It felt like Jimmy Garoppolo got this NFC Championship win, and he did next to nothing in the game, which is just nuts to me.
Yeah, he's going to have to do a lot more when he plays the Chiefs in a couple of weeks. But yeah, the first half, the Jimmy Garoppolo, the running. I don't have anything else specific to this game to go over until we get to listener feedback. How about you?
Not really much, just heartbreaking. It was a very heartbreaking loss. I even though I picked Green Bay, I kind of expected San Francisco to win, but I didn't think it would be a slaughter like this game was. I saw somebody post on Twitter, I believe it was Twitter, or on my Discord channel, actually, that said, I'm having trouble, they were quoted to say, I'm having trouble finding the game. I keep trying to stream it, but they keep showing the game from week 12. Does anybody know what my problem is? And that's what it felt like. So, heartbreaking.
Very, very heartbreaking, Scott. Just this one really hurt. And, you know, I know it's only been about 24 hours since the game, but do you have some early thoughts or hopes for the 2020 Green Bay Packers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that they should take the 2019 to 2020 season as a learning experience. I don't really think anybody expected a rookie head coach to go 13-3, much less make it to the NFC Championship.
Other than me.
Other than you, yes. Well, you expected 16-0, so
true.
To be fair. I think the team needs to look at this as a positive despite the disappointing loss. I mean, we built a great starting point for the 2020 season, and we've only got great places to go for next season. I think the biggest thing that they need to work on is that run defense. It needs to be more consistent because the defense at the beginning of the year looked awesome. I was so excited because I was like, we finally have a running game and we finally have a solid defense that was a force to be reckoned with. And this game proved that we just do not know how to stop the run when we get a good running back in there. The secondary has been better. There's been some holes here and there, but the running game has just been impossible for us to stop, and I think that should be the focus in the offseason. How about you?
Along those same lines, I do want to, I'm not going to say this is the reason we lost, but I don't think it helped. The Green Bay Packers need to arrive for road games at least 2 days early. 3 days early, I would say, if they're west of the Rocky Mountains. Because and there was other people chattering about it as well. You know, it's great to see the fabulous photos of the Packers arriving in Santa Clara, you know, getting off the bus or whatever. But really, it wasn't even 24 hours before kickoff, hardly. I think you need more time to acclimate. I know that some teams do arrive for road games earlier. I don't know if it's the norm for people just to show up, you know, and pretty much just roll into the stadium. Have you heard any other teams that really do it vastly different than what we've been doing?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever really paid attention to when teams arrive until this season. And the only reason I did is because every time we went to California, we showed up like the day before. And that just seems off to me. You know, for something as big as the NFC Championship game, you want to get settled in and you want to get some decent practice under you before a big game like this. And I don't understand that decision or if they even have the ability to get out there earlier. I don't know how that works at all.
Yeah, it's just a thought that I would like to see done differently. Also, I know that this may be difficult because of the players' union and the agreement, but I would like to see the Packers play more of our starters in preseason, like as tradition, like back in preseason game number 2 and 3, so that we can get a little more rhythm and not spend the entire first game and a half of the regular season trying to find a rhythm. I mean, granted, we did win those first 2 games, but wasn't the first game like 10-9 or 10? It was really low scoring on both sides of it. So I'd like to see us be more on fire right when we start. And Gutekunst has done some great things for the Packers. I would like to see him do even more great free agent moves in the offseason. What do you think about maybe trying to get another stud wide receiver in there?
Well, that's always going to be a plus. We definitely need some help there, but stay away from the likes of Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr. and if those guys are available, because you know, I think there's a lot of negative aspects that go with that. But it's a matter of finding those stud receivers on the wire, especially because other teams are going to be looking for them at the same time.
That's true. Everybody does want more of that on their team, and I just don't know. And I could be talked out of this next one. I think that it might be time in this year's NFL draft to try drafting the next Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame quarterback with the condition that he's going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for at least 2 seasons, maybe 3, or until Aaron retires, because I just don't want to be left high and dry when Aaron Rodgers does decide to hang it up and we don't have somebody waiting. I want it to be almost as seamless as it was when Brett Favre finally moved on or was told to move on and Aaron Rodgers took over. Granted, he did have a choppy first year, but after that, we've been on fire pretty much ever since. Do you think it's too soon to look at possibly drafting the next Packers Hall of Fame quarterback?
I don't think it's ever too soon to start looking for that, but I think that Rodgers is far from giving up. Even as frustrated as he was last night, you could just see it in his face throughout the entire game. I think that he's in it for the long haul. I think he loves the game too much, and he would love to get at least one more ring on his finger before he hangs his hat up there, or his helmet up, as it were. But you know, is that where you want to start? Because if you're looking for a Hall of Fame quarterback, you're looking for early in the draft when that happens. That's in April, right?
Right.
You know, so are there places that we should be looking first? You know, maybe some defensive players that can hold the line a little bit better. Maybe some wide receivers, like you alluded to earlier. It's going to be a tricky situation because, you know, where do you start? We've got Rodgers still in there. I don't even know when his contract is up, but he's in there for a while. We've got a backup quarterback, at least a halfway decent one. Yes, he's not a Hall of Fame potential quarterback, but I think the Packers have gotten lucky, and maybe that's not the right word, between the last, 20 plus years of football that we've had, where we had Favre and Rodgers, and that's it. I worry that we're due for a Bears-like slump where we're going to go through quarterbacks, you know, like there's no tomorrow. And I don't want that. I love that the Packers have been consistent with that quarterback position for so long. I just don't know if it's too soon. It's gonna be a tricky situation for that draft, and I think for the first time in a long time, I'm going to be watching that draft much more closely than I ever have.
Yeah, there's so many holes to fill. Well, What do you say about hearing what the listeners had to say? Because surprisingly, we got 6 voicemails, 3 or 4 emails, and a lot of other great feedback that everybody has a different angle, and that's what I love. They gave us a call at area code 920-3PACK-GO. Yes, indeed, 920-3PACK-GO. Starting right off with Mark, who didn't even wait till the end. I was hoping that his entire voicemail would turn out to be null and void, but we still didn't have enough points at the end.
Hey, guys. Before I get to some things we need to work on, I mean, it was a great year. We won the division. We won 13 games. We won a playoff game. But this is a hard pill to swallow. It's kind of, we're embarrassing ourselves. So all the positives, man, at least be competitive. Mike Pettin, man, you got to load the box and stop the run. It's like they're, as Troy Aikman said, taking away our manhood. So I'm not impressed with Pettin's ability to adjust. At halftime, apparently we made no adjustments because they continued to run the ball down our throats. But, yeah, Rodgers, you know, he made a couple of mistakes early, and you just can't do that. But I think Packer fans, overall, the reasonable ones are going to appreciate that this was a really good season. It just ended on a sour note. And I think we have to give credit to San Francisco. It's the number one defense in the league, and they showed it. They ran the ball 47 times against Minnesota, so, you know, it's like Pettin had to know they were going to run the ball. So they're just a really good team, and I want to thank you guys for being a sounding board for all us Packer fans this year. And thanks for listening. Go Pack, go.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with everything that Mark said, and I love that he did give the Niners their due there. They are a solid team. Their defense was great. I think their running game was their biggest strength in this game, though, for sure. But yeah, we totally embarrassed ourselves. I don't know what happened in the second quarter. I felt like we didn't adjust at all until the fourth quarter. But also, in terms of Pettin, I feel like all of a sudden everybody is ready to get rid of him, like they were Dom Capers in years past. I don't get that. This was one game that wound up terrible. You know, our defense hasn't been consistent through the entire season, but we had a good start. There's a lot of good possibilities, and I'm not ready to get rid of this guy or give him the axe because, you know, we failed to make some adjustments in one of the toughest games of a season for anybody that makes it to the playoffs. I don't know why people are ready to lynch this guy already.
Why waste time? I guess you look at it that way. Mark, excellent. Thank you so much for your call. And it did seem like in the third quarter, our offense did have a slightly different feel. But you're right, the defense didn't change things up very much till the fourth quarter. Maybe the flu was lingering on. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the key for next year. Keep lots of vitamin C handy.
Yes. Airborne, emergency, zinc, everything. And I'm sure they do. This thing must have been nasty. It was no joke.
Hey, Wayne, it's Scott Aaron from the Heartland, Aaron Peterson. I just want to say, a lot of people will probably say, well, at least they made an effort at the end. I'm not going to say that. They've done exactly what they did all season. They're a one-quarter team. They haven't managed to put together a complete game. I think twice this season they put together an entire game. I mean, I think most Packer fans that have really been paying attention didn't expect to win, but I was kind of hoping for a better game plan than rinse and repeat from the last time. There's no excuse that Mostert should have kept just running all over us, and we didn't make those adjustments that really would have stopped the run. But it is what it is. We still got to the NFC Championship. That's fantastic. I hope for a better year next year, and I don't care if we win 13-3. I hope to see more complete games where we look like winners as opposed to winning ugly. Because I'm sorry, I just don't believe you can win ugly all the way to the Super Bowl. But it was a nice try, and we got far, so that's great. Thanks, guys, for a wonderful podcast. Hope you have a wonderful time off, because you don't have to do another one. Take care, guys.
Wow. Superfan Aaron, thanks for that. We do appreciate your call. Be sure to check out Aaron's Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Smirk, another great show that he does.
And Hitchcock Presents as well. He loves some Alfred Hitchcock.
You gotta love some Hitchcock, the classics. And great point about us being a one-quarter team. I would say maybe a 2 or 3-quarter team, but the rinse and repeat game plan from the first meeting against the Niners, that unfortunately was painfully apparent.
Yeah, he's not wrong. I mean, could you make an argument that maybe we're a 2-quarter team? possibly. But I feel like the one quarter approach has been that way because of the one quarter where we're like, okay, we've got something going on, but it's just been very depressing. And I know that the term win ugly has been thrown around a lot this year, but he makes a good point. We were 13-3, but so many of those games were dangerously close, or even if we did win, we still didn't play a full 4 quarters of our full potential. And I think that's a big thing that needs to happen differently for next year as well.
Yeah, and I think win ugly can be the theme of the 2019 season, but we need a new theme for next year. And it sounded like Aaron wants something even better than 13-3 as well. So, Aaron, what do you think? An undefeated season next year?
My prediction will be that Wayne will pick all 16 games to be won by the Packers. There's my 2020 prediction. How about that?
Wow. Spoilers. But we'll have to wait and see. I could shock and awe everybody and look at the schedule with a discerning eye and predict that we'll go 8-8.
Go, Pat, go! Go, Pat, go! Hey, guys, Andre in LA. First off, I want to tip my cap to the San Francisco 49ers. They beat us fair and square. Best of luck in the Super Bowl. I'm sure, like pretty much all of the Packer faithful, I'm super disappointed that our season ended with a loss instead of a Super Bowl victory, but, you know, that's the way the game plays. Only one team wins, the rest of the teams lose. With that being said, instead of breaking down the game, I'm just going to show appreciation for a great season we had this year. It was a hell of a run. Aaron Jones, you were incredible this year, especially in the red zone. The defense, even though they weren't always great this year, they still gave us a lot of wonderful moments. They came up big at a lot of moments. The Preston brothers, Blake Martinez, Kevin King, Jason Alexander, I think Kenyon Clark. So many to name, I can't even remember them all. The punter, J.K. Scott, who was not available for yesterday's game, but still, I forget the backup guy. I think it's Raven something. Still, appreciation. I will try to remind all the Packer faithful, you know, look, for the past, 5 years, it's been a really big disappointment as far as the season has gone, with Rodgers getting hurt, defense getting lit up consistently, the offense looking terrible. You know, this was the first year in a long time that we made the playoffs, first year in a long time that we got a first-round bye, first year in a few years that we went to the NFC Championship. So, you know, I'm appreciative for the journey we went on this year. Hopefully next year we get back to the Super Bowl and hopefully win it. You know, again, I'm thankful. That's just the way it breaks down. I love the game. I love the podcast. This will probably be my last call. I'm not sure when you guys stop doing the podcast and bring it back, but this may be my last one. It really bummed me out. But again, I'm thankful. It's still green and gold till I'm dead and cold. It's always go, Pack, go. You know, I'm still wearing my Packer sweater today, even though, you know, it's more so cold than representing. But still, I love the Packers, love the podcast. Thank you for calling me out at the beginning of the season for not being enthusiastic to start the show. Go, Pack, go. But kept it going. So one last time, go, Pack, go!
Hey, thanks, Andre. And that's what I'm talking about, man. That's the positivity we need. And I love that the energy was still there with your Go Pack Go, man. That's great. Yeah, Aaron Jones in the red zone was great. The D at times was great. I love the first in a long time bits that you talked about. We haven't been to the playoffs in a while. We haven't had our first round bye in a while. Rodgers didn't get hurt. That's when's the last time that happened for an entire season? So lots of good things to take away from it, despite the loss. And like I mentioned in my look towards 2020, these are things that we can look to making 2020 an even better season than it was this year. So love it very much. And Andre, I'm going to miss getting to hear your voicemails every week, man. If I get out to LA in June, I'm usually there for the E3 conference. I'm going to be hitting you up, brother, so we can grab a drink or something, because I want to meet you in person, brother.
Well, I need to get on that bandwagon as well.
Yeah, man.
I'm only an hour and a half away. I can make it down there for that. And Andre, thank you so much for your calls all season long. the amazing Go Pack Goes and insights. And yeah, this will be the last episode unless there's some sort of groundbreaking news, if some fabulous trade happens between now and the schedule release in April. And then, of course, we're going to do an episode for the schedule release, give our early thoughts. And a couple weeks after that, of course, the NFL draft. That'll be a big episode. And then things will be starting to happen. But unless there's groundbreaking news, we'll be talking to everybody in April. Stay tuned. Keep that podcast subscription going so the new episodes will come out and you'll get them. And we got another call at 920-3-PACK-GO.
Go, Pack, go. Go, Pack, go.
Dan from Denver, Colorado, with my wife Jessica and my beautiful daughter Amanda, and of course the dogs from last week. Not quite the performance we were hoping, but there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel for the Packer fans. Don't lose faith. We will be back, and congratulations to the Packers. NFC Championship game didn't quite go as planned, but first-year coach Matt LaFleur did a fantastic job. And I think the future is bright for the green and gold. So go, Pack, go. As always, green and gold till we're dead and cold.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan, Jessica, and Amanda, and the dogs. We appreciate your voicemail. And yes, it's tough not to be disheartened right now. The game still stings. I think each day will get better. And of course, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, that'll help make it better. And then, once the Super Bowl's over and everybody's on vacation, then we can really set our eyes on next season, and it'll be here before we know it. So that was awesome stuff.
Hey, you guys, this is Megan. So, Pack, go! I was trying to have a little bit of enthusiasm. I'm pretty bummed, but still so happy with our season. It was a hell of a season, and we didn't necessarily show up in the first half. I'll be the first to admit it. But either way, we played down to the end. And, technically with the Titans losing an hour before we started, we were down to the last three teams in the NFL. So that's a pretty big victory. And it's a bummer. But, at the end of the day, still so happy to be a Packer fan. Watched every second of the game, every play. And there's nothing that would ever make me support them any less. And, for 31 teams, every year it ends on a loss, and it's never fun for any of those teams. But I'm proud of our guys. We battled through a lot of tough games this season, and we made it pretty far, so you got to give them credit for that. And my phone will now be on airplane mode for the rest of the night because I don't want to hear any of it. I'm just kidding, but I love the team. Love the guys, Matt LaFleur, making it to the NFC Championship his first season. What a guy. Honestly, I just hope our guys aren't doubting themselves or in any way feeling like this wasn't a successful season, because it sure as hell was. And now starts the long off season with no football, and wondering how our team's going to change throughout the off season, and it'll be different, but you got to love them. Green and gold till I'm dead and cold forever and ever and ever. My favorite hobby, my favorite part of my life, besides my three nephews. I love you guys so much. It sucks, but at the same time, I'm still smiling, if you can't tell by my voice. I've been wearing Packers apparel every day since December 1st, like I do every year, and I got to wear it for more weeks this year than I have previous years, so that was kind of cool, and super proud. I know they'll work hard on the off season to continue to better themselves like they always do, and none of this season was luck. As I said before, you don't luckily win 14 games. It's just not. That's not how math and probability works. But anyways, love the podcast, love the Packers, love Aaron Rodgers forever and everybody on the team. I'm just so lucky to have this as a huge part of my life. Anyways, I don't know. See you guys next season. Go Pack, go! Woo!
Awesome, Megan. I love that you can be positive through all of that. I really liked what she talked about. She said, there's 31 teams that are going to end their season with a loss. Their season's going to come to an end. We happen to be one of them. And I also love how she said, after the Titans won, we were the top 3 teams, which is a really optimistic way of looking at it. That was great. So, Megan, thanks for the enthusiasm. Thanks for the positivity. That's what we need. And I couldn't agree more about Coach LaFleur. 13-3 for a rookie season is nothing to sneeze at. That's really, really impressive. I don't care if you won ugly. That still is a great stat, and I hope we're on for bigger and better things next season as well.
And I love Megan's tradition of wearing Packers gear every day starting, I think she said December 1st. And because of the playoffs and the bye week and all that, she got to wear daily Packers gear a little more than in past seasons. So that's all good.
Yeah, I may have to step up and pick up some more ties next year.
Yeah, you got to stock up. I've got my scarf, my victory scarf. I need something that will work better in the hot September and October days here in California, but that'll be on the to-do list for the off season as well.
Well, guys, I'm out of the track walking off some stress. Short of a Super Bowl. Oh, this is Art from Texas. Short of a Super Bowl, it was a great season. I think it was a learning year for the whole team, and hopefully they can come back with maybe a couple of first, second round draft picks for the defensive line, or maybe pick up a couple during the free agency. And I don't see them needing much more than defensive linemen. Other than that, it was a great season, and looking forward to next year also. I think they're going to be that much better. Go Pack, go. Green and gold, sunlit and cold. Thank you guys for the podcast for this year, and looking forward to next year. Thanks.
You're welcome, Art, and thank you for your calls and your support. And yeah, the long off season, but this is a good starting point for the entire team, like you said. And Art wants us to focus on defensive linemen and bolster up the defense a bit more. Maybe somebody that could stop the run.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's what I was saying earlier. We need to figure out how to stop that run because it's just ridiculous that we're getting walked all over like that, for sure.
And speaking of walking, Art was out walking off some stress after that game, and that's a good way to do it. That's a healthy way to get rid of that stress.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to some emails. We got some from you guys as well. Even though we had a loss, still love hearing from you guys. First one comes from Steven, who says, Steven checking in from Palace Park, Illinois for the final time for the 2019 season, and the Packers will start with what will be at least a shorter offseason than the last couple of seasons. What a great, fun 200th episode with the return of former co-host Troy Heinrichs and Dallin Christensen. It was a big surprise to me that they were on the 200th podcast. I didn't like how the Packers, as the visiting team, won the coin toss with the call for tails, and they, as predictable, deferred to the second half. Can we have the Packers open up and close the regular season against teams other than the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, please? Is there any way that we can get the San Francisco 49ers off our 2020 schedule? That's a tall order. Also, he says, does anybody have any big plans during the offseason? I'm going to the Wharton Center in East Lansing the day before Easter. Other than that, I really don't have any really huge plans for the offseason other than sometimes listening to an episode of the Packers Fan Podcast until the podcast returns again on a regular basis once the 2020 season starts. I'm now saying there are 3 teams that I hate the most: the Chicago Bears, New England Patriots, and San Francisco 49ers. Our defensive coordinator, Mike Pettin, needs to be let go since our defense was not nearly as on fire as I thought they would be. Also, our strength and conditioning coaches, even though we didn't have too many injuries in this season. During free agency and the draft, I think the Packers need to draft a new starting quarterback along with better offensive and defensive players. Scott Clark, it was great getting to know you this season as the newest co-host of the Packers Fan Podcast. Can't wait to hear your thoughts of this game along with what your guys' thoughts on the new season schedule and the draft, which is scheduled for April 23rd to 25th in Paradise, Nevada. Stephen Verheeren. A lot to unpack there, but I'm actually in the camp. I don't hate the 49ers. I know that I'm supposed to or whatever. I respect the 49ers. I don't know if I'll be rooting for them in this season, but that has less to do with bitterness as it does. I'll share my thoughts later when we talk about the Super Bowl, but I assume you're not in the same camp there, Wayne?
No, Not on this one. Back in the day when my bass player and I had Rams seasons tickets because we wanted to go to some games and they were in Anaheim, and that was a nice place and they had great lasagna on game day. But anyway, we would go see the Rams, and I was fortunate, when the Packers came by now and then. But even then, hated the Niners, hated not all. I disliked many of the Niners fans that came into the Rams Stadium and just caused trouble. It was just like having the Raiders come into the Rams Stadium. And ever since then, and then we have Richard Sherman with his antics and yada, yada, yada. I'm sure they're all nice people when you meet them. I don't know, but I'm still rooting for the Chiefs. So there. Also got an email from Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher. Well, what a great year we had. But we can't believe all of the miscommunication we had during the game, and unbelievable how horrible the game was. Although we had a great ending without a fight, at least we did have a great season. All in all, we're always going to cheer for the green and gold. Go Pack Go, bleed, you know it. Green and gold till dead and cold.
Very well said. It was a horrible game, but it was a great season. Also, we got one from Jared Machini-Kerr, who says, Sup, Wayne and Scott. Wayne, just so you know, sup is short for what's up. Just make sure you got that.
Thank you. I was so confused.
I'll go ahead and get the obvious out of the way first. That was a terrible performance. The offense got going too little too late, and even if they did, the defense couldn't stop the run to save its life, especially when they're letting one running back set a franchise for the NFC Championship game record for most rushing yards in the game. There is some silver lining to it, although you have to squint to see it. 2 drives. Everything else could have gone the same, but had we not fumbled on one drive and threw a pick in the second, those look like scoring drives that could have kept us hanging in there. Not only that, but we know that the Pack is more talented than what we displayed, which I suppose is why I'd prefer to lose in the final 2 minutes than what we saw last night. Looking ahead, let's face it, prior to this season, none of us ever dreamed about being in the NFC Championship game with an NFC North Division title to boot. Looking at this season from a 3,000-foot view, that was a damn good year, and that was a ton of fun to watch. Matt LaFleur is clearly going to be doing amazing things for a long time. We have a talented and young defense that just needs more experience, and we're probably 3 truly good playmakers away from being able to finish the job next season. Whether that's done via the draft or free agency signings, I believe in Brian Gutekunst. Looking at the night and day difference of our defense's performance this season versus last just proves that. Also, I'm very sorry for missing kickoff last night. He missed kickoff last night. That happened during the last Niners game, and I think I owe Scott Clark some cheese curds for contributing to the team's worst performances of the season. Green and gold till dead and cold. Go Pack Go, and let's rally next season for another shot to make it to the great dance. P.S. I, too, like Wayne, hope that Mahomes throws for 500 yards and 6 touchdown passes in the Super Bowl. Awesome. Thanks so much for that one, Jared.
I wouldn't even mind if Mahomes throws for whatever the record would be in the Super Bowl, because I think Steve Young threw for 6, so we need Mahomes to throw for 7, 8, maybe 10 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. But
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Couldn't you imagine how much fun that would be to watch? A lot better than, well, we're going to talk more about the Super Bowl. I just want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast all season, in fact, the past 9 seasons. All of your support, your voicemails, your feedback in the Facebook group and on Twitter and even on Instagram now and then. It's just good stuff. Packers fans are awesome, and we come together, whether it's in a loss or a victory or that crazy season, it was about 4 or 5 years ago when Aaron Rodgers got injured, our backup got injured, our third string got benched or injured, and we just brought somebody off the street and said, here, throw the ball. The listeners are there. Oh my gosh. Good stuff.
I agree. I got some thank yous I'd like to say as well, but before I talk about the listeners, Wayne, I just want to extend a thank you to you for, number one, allowing me to be a part of this podcast and fill in that second chair for you. It's been an incredible experience, and although we've podcasted in the past together on some other episodes prior to Packers Fan Podcast or prior to me joining it, I feel like this season I've made a very close friend in you, and I really appreciate like I said, the opportunity, and I appreciate your friendship, and I feel like it's we've got the beginning of something great here. So thank you, man. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Scott. I appreciate you coming on. I know that you already have a lot going on with the Gaming Outsider podcast. But this June, if you do make it out to E3, I have no excuse to make it down there. And we'll meet up. We'll see if Andre and other listeners in the LA area can even hook up as well. That'd be a lot of fun.
For sure. And also I want to say a thank you to the listeners. You guys have been more than welcoming to me, a guy who, a voice you didn't recognize unless you'd listened to my other podcasts in the past. And everyone was very friendly. Everyone was very welcoming and supportive, and just came out in droves, even during the losses, and listened to the show. And I just really appreciate you giving me a chance and welcoming me to the Packers Fan Podcast family. Really do appreciate it and love you all.
And they even had some fun with you on a couple of the weeks where you picked with your head and thought the Vikings would beat the Packers. So.
Yeah, I really did. I really did.
But that was then. And so now we pretty much have an off season again, unless there's breaking news between now and the schedule release. What are you going to be working on between now and April?
Well, I'm going to still be continuing with the Gaming Outsider. That is still plugging away. I am planning another video game convention out in here in Illinois, and we're going to try to hold it in Rockford this time instead of McChesney Park, but still trying to figure out where to get started with that. We are looking at a couple of potential guests. One for sure, Sissy Jones is returning. If you don't recognize her name, she's a very prolific voice actor in the video game world. Actually won a BAFTA award for her performance in a game called Firewatch. She came last year and loved it so much she actually asked to be included in the subsequent year. So looking very forward to seeing her again. The second one, I can't tell you who it is yet because it's not confirmed, but I'm waiting to hear back from another voice actor that everybody will really want to meet. So it's a lot of planning for that. Lots of video game playing, trying to get caught up on movies and TV shows and do my best to teach fourth graders the best I can. How about you, man?
That sounds like a lot of worthy work right there. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
During the time off, I'm going to have a little more time to focus on my own voiceover work, although I don't do voiceovers for video games, mostly for other people's podcast intros, some business narration work and things like that, and even did an audiobook a year ago. That was a lot of work. But I'm going to dig into some more of the other voiceover work, and I'm glad you can't see most of my studio. It needs a lot of straightening up. It's almost spring, so it's time for spring cleaning. Get that thing fixed up. It kind of got disheveled over the past year, but I got my bottle of Packers 100-year vintage. Well, the wine in the bottle is not 100 years old, but it's in celebration of. Crack that open when we win the Super Bowl. Bottle of wine right there with a Packers logo. It's beautiful. Anyway, so we got that going on. We both picked the Packers victory, so that's not going to change our current tally of 8-5. So that stands. Cheese curds, they'll happen probably during the next football season.
Yeah, hopefully by the time I get out there in June, they'll have a Culver's in LA.
That would be nice. Grand opening the week that you come to town for E3.
That'd be amazing.
They need to have you do the ribbon cutting for all of the support you've done for them all your life.
With a big old pair of those scissors that are green and gold. That would be amazing.
They would have to be green and gold. And it's something for the weekly poll, which, we're not going to have it every week during the off season for obvious reasons. But I wanted to know this from the listeners because I had a feeling it would be split, and it was. Is an NFC Championship game loss easier to stomach if we lose it in the final 2 minutes, or is it easier to stomach if we're just losing the whole dang game? And I asked for bonus points if they could explain why. And I was kind of surprised. 71% of the people that voted, over 100 votes, 71% said they actually like it better when they're losing the entire game. It's easier to stomach, whereas 29% said losing in the final 2 minutes is easier to take. Where do you fall on that, Scott?
Yeah, I kind of disagree with the audience here, too. I think it's easier to lose in the final minutes because at least that way your team played a good game up to that point. Even though we may not have deserved to win this game, it would have felt better knowing that we did our best, we put our best foot forward, and gave it all we got. It really didn't feel like we gave it all we got this game. So I would be with the 29% that said it would be easier to lose in the final minutes, as heartbreaking as that is.
Right. It would still be heartbreaking, but I'm there as well. Just let us hang in there. Give us hope until the final seconds if need be. And, If you have to lose, then there you go. But a lot of people shared their thoughts, Scott, that really helped understand both sides of the issue.
Yeah, first off, we got Peter in the UK who said, I can accept being beaten by the better team, but to show no heart, no fight, no desire, and just lose the game from the beginning annoys the crap out of me. That is edited for for content in that case.
And Brett says, when you're down and losing and the opposition has momentum and they're obviously better, you can accept it, that it wasn't our day. But losing in the final minutes, knowing that all it took was 100% concentration and effort to make that play, knowing how close you were, that hurts. And I still have nightmares about Larry Fitzgerald. And Brett, so do I. I was at that game, and I'm like, would somebody tackle Larry Fitzgerald?
Yeah, I get what Brett is saying here, too. I imagine that the Seahawks are, cursing themselves for that play call in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. That one has to sting, knowing that you could do it, knowing that you were that close and simply couldn't do one little thing to pull off the win. That was huge. But man, what a football game that was to watch. From an outside in that didn't really care which way that game went, that was a lot of fun to watch. Tyler also commented and said, I'd rather lose a close one because then it at least shows effort. Outplayed by a far superior team tonight, but very proud and happy for a season I expected to be over a long time ago. Go Pack Go. I'm with Tyler.
And Dictus in the Netherlands says, watching a game like we saw yesterday is no fun. You always want to be in it in the fourth quarter, at least to have a shot. But this is much easier to stomach than the Seahawks game in 2014, when you never had a chance. Do you lose that chance? No, you lost the game. Proud that we've come this far. Disappointed, but on to next year. Now that Seahawks game, that was losing a chance, losing our destiny. That one still hurts.
Also, somebody by the name of Verified Packer Fan 79 on Twitter said, it's easier to lose the entire game because you know the inevitable. Last-minute loss punches you in the stomach as you walk around a corner. This loss is easier to accept than against the Seahawks when we lost in overtime. Also, Robert on Twitter says, both suck, it turns out. You're right. Both do suck.
Absolutely. And Lisa, because if it's lost in the last 2 minutes, you have hope. If it's the entire game, it still hurts, but you have time to prepare yourself for what's going to happen.
That's a good point.
That sums up yesterday. We were definitely preparing ourselves. It was not a heart attack game. Indigestion, yes. Heart attack, no.
Also, Ralph says, you want your team to be competitive and lose with dignity. Getting blown out is demoralizing. Agreed 100%. And finally, Deb, last-minute loss, much easier. At least it shows we were in it to win it.
Excellent.
That's what I'm talking about.
Thanks for those votes and comments. Great stuff again this week over in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community page and group. Brett in the UK posted this. He said, terrible game by the Packers. When the offense finally got going, it was little, too late. Defense had so many holes, you would have been better off draining pasta through them. I'm getting hungry. Couldn't stop the run, couldn't run the ball. Heading out to San Francisco the day before the game was a bad idea, in my opinion. They should have been out there Thursday evening. Mm-hmm. But if you had told me at the beginning of the season we would have made the championship game, I would have laughed at you. 13-3, second seed, beaten by a very good 49ers team. I wouldn't exactly say it was a disastrous season. Something to build on. Our future is still shining bright. Until next time, go Pack Go!
Also, despite the horrible game, it was so fun to discuss it live as it happened on our weekly thread. So I know we're not going to have any more opportunities this season to do so, but, next year with the preseason and all that, love chatting with you guys in the middle of that. Although a lot of it was negative comments this time. So
it had to be.
Yep. Also, Jacob says, sometimes certain teams are a bad matchup for you. The 49ers are a quality team. I'm thinking we need to add some pieces with this matchup in mind for next season. They aren't going away. We are probably going to have to get through them to get to another Super Bowl. Personally, I'd like to see another established receiving threat and maybe an upgrade at middle linebacker. Blake is good, but I think we need a complementary piece in that spot. We will all see what happens soon. Hopefully we can get over that hump next year. Thank you very much, Jacob.
And that brings up an interesting point that Jacob brought up, and thank you for that, Jacob. How much do the Packers tool their offseason choices to just try to beat the 49ers? Because I do believe we have to play them in Frisco again next year, just by the luck of the draw. and possibly play them in the playoffs next year. How much do we focus on just beating that one team?
Well, I mean, considering they're the only game we had this season, or 2 games that we had this season, where we just got destroyed, I think that's a good starting point. I mean, because if we can beat them, we could potentially have won the other 2 games that we lost this season much more easily. So, if we can beat the 49ers, we could have a 16-0 season, but it's all going to depend on next year. So I like that strategy.
Okay, if that's what we got to do to get past them and get that 16-0 season, or how about a 19-0 season? But, first steps. So we want to remind everybody, even during the offseason, if you've got some Packers stuff to talk about, come on over to the Facebook group at packerscommunity.com and let us know what you're thinking.
Well, before we head out, Wayne, let's talk about some general NFL chatter. And we've been talking about the Super Bowl. Obviously, we're not in it, which is disappointing, but I think I already know the answer to this. But who would you like to see win the Super Bowl, Niners or the Chiefs, and why?
Oh, and why? I see how it is.
Yeah.
I would like the Kansas City Chiefs to win this Super Bowl. One, because I dislike the Niners pretty much as I dislike the Patriots. So I need them to lose. Their fans are insufferable enough, at least the ones around me, with their, we're going to get our 6th ring, and the Packers only have 4. And then I have to tell them about the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And then they try to tell me the Super Bowls don't matter from before the days of the 49ers. And it just is sickening. Plus, Mahomes seems like a nice guy. He actually does a little bit better in those State Farm commercials than Aaron Rodgers on some of them. He was on the cover of Madden this year too, right? I think.
Yes, he was.
That's not the reason I wanted him to win, but a lot of good things. And Andy Reid, come on, let the guy get a great Super Bowl victory. It'd be a lot of fun. How about
you?
Plus,
the Chiefs only have 1 Super Bowl win. I don't hate the either team. I'm not bitter about the loss. I'm upset about the loss.
Oh.
I'm not bitter about it. I don't hate the 49ers. I was actually rooting for them when they got beat by the Ravens a few years ago in the Super Bowl. So yeah, I would like to see the Chiefs win. I'm just a fan of Mahomes. I just really like him. For some reason, he just seems like an all-around good guy, phenomenal player. Remember that no-look throw he did last season?
Yeah.
That just blew my mind. I would like to see him win. I don't have anything against the Niners. I really wouldn't be upset if either team won this. I'd be happy for my friends here who aren't the same type of fans that you dealt with out there in California. They're diehard fans. They wear their apparel all year long, and they're not jerks about it, outside of the cheese grater comment. So yeah, I'd like to see the Chiefs go.
Okay, fair enough, Scott. I appreciate the explanation. How about the return of the XFL? First games start the Saturday after the Super Bowl, Saturday, February 8th. They've got a lot of interesting rules that they've implemented, some of which I don't understand yet, but it promises to be very fast-paced and a lot of good stuff. And unlike last year's AAFL, the XFL has a lot of money from the pro wrestling ownership side of things. So I think they're going to make it through at least the first season. And who knows? They've got money. They've got television deals. Are you going to check out some of the XFL?
If I'm going to be direct, I'm going to say no. I don't really have a whole lot of interest in another league. I love the NFL and I love the Packers. I couldn't even tell you the name of a single team from the XFL. If I wanted to watch more football, I would probably get into college football before I got into XFL. And I know that XFL is in the off season, but still, not a lot of interest. Maybe I'll watch a game just to see what it's about and see what the differences are and how fast paced it actually is. But I don't know. I feel like I got better things to do with my time than commit to another sport.
Well, I'm definitely not going to commit to it or podcast about it. I can kind of have games on in the background. If somebody gave me free tickets to go see the LA, I think they're the Wildcats, I'd go check it out. But at the same time, it's football when we don't have football. So who knows? The next star for the Green Bay Packers could be in the XFL right now, waiting for his shot.
That's interesting. Speaking of the Super Bowl, how about that halftime show? You excited for Jennifer Lopez and Shakira?
Was the no answer an explanation?
I couldn't tell if there was the delay or if I'm not super. I understand they're both beautiful women. I'm not a big fan of their music, and I don't know. I feel like every year when we talk about the halftime shows, you've got 2 or 3 different camps. People that love pop music, people that love rock music. I always tended to fall somewhere in the middle because even though I'm not a huge pop music fan, I still really appreciated Lady Gaga. I thought that was fun. Who's the other one that
there's
I
been
can't
over
remember
50
her name
over the years.
No, I know. I'm just thinking more recently.
Just the recent ones. What do we
Katy
have?
Perry.
Maroon 5 and Katy Perry and the Sharks.
The Sharks were a little weird, but still, the show was great. My favorite Super Bowl performance of all time was Prince, and I know we obviously can't get that again for multiple reasons. But I'm more of a rock fan, but pop sells better than rock, so I understand the decision. I'm just not a huge fan. I'll watch it, but I'm not as excited about it.
I just don't need to see or hear those two, and they're going to be up there just shaking their booties pretty much. And I can almost guarantee they're going to be lip syncing. And even if they're not, don't care. Halftime will be my time to refill on the food, an adult beverage or a Diet Coke, use the restroom. We always have a big family gathering for Super Bowl, because I don't need to focus on it as much. Like, look, I got to make notes for the podcast. I got to tweet out this and that. And, so I can just kind of watch it. And as long as the Chiefs are ahead the whole time, I'll definitely be watching and enjoying it. And although I've only owned maybe 1 or 2 of his albums over the years, I'm going to agree with you 100%. The Prince halftime show is the definite high mark.
So good.
Nothing's been that stellar. Him playing, shredding on the guitar in the rain, doing Purple Rain. You couldn't have planned it, and it worked.
Seriously, how fortuitous was that? It started raining during Purple Rain.
Yes.
It's just utterly fantastic. And then he does the thing where his silhouette is behind the sheet. He got away with a little bit there, I think. That was just so memorable. I want to go back and rewatch that one.
You should. U2 was good. Tom Petty, although not super exciting, was pretty good. I just always thought, with the high power energy and gusto of the NFL, I'm more in the hard rock camp. I just think that something like Metallica, obviously we can't get Motorhead
right.
They're all passed away at this point, but oh well, it is what it is. And halftime, gosh, it seems to get longer every year.
Yeah, it sure does.
It's plenty of time to eat, use the restroom, and chat with people. And
plus we got to watch commercials too. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't get excited to watch the commercials because that's always a fun time. I think we should start a thread on Package Fan Podcast community and just talk about all the commercials we see because that's all we're going to be super interested in, right?
Probably. Isn't Geico promising sequels to a lot of their commercials? Is that a Super Bowl thing?
Yeah, I saw something like that. I imagine I'm hoping that we see the end of the State Farm agent commercials.
Yes.
I'm so sick of that.
Please.
Thankfully, I feel like the Bud Light Night commercials have stopped. That shtick ran out of gas the first week, in my opinion. But I'm more interested in seeing the ones for things that we're not expecting, not the typical beer commercials and Dorito commercials. I always look for that one hidden gem that stands out. Or they do something innovative or clever. Do you remember the one year where Miller High Life had a 1-second commercial because they couldn't afford a full 60-second commercial, so they just had their spokesperson come stand there in the middle of a warehouse and just shout Miller High Life, and then that was the entire commercial.
I remember the concept, but I don't remember that actual 1 second of my life.
Oh man, I remember reading about it beforehand. And so I was kind of looking out for it, and it just cracked me up that that's all it was, and that you can actually buy sponsorship time by the second for the Super Bowl just seriously cracks me up.
Which is probably about $500,000 or it's 2.1 mil. Something crazy.
It's insane. I thought it was $1 million for a 60-second commercial. I feel like that's what it was. So take $1 million and split it, divided by 60, and that's what they spent for that 1 second ad.
Well, if we win the Super Lotto between now and whenever the deadline is, we could buy a 1 second or 2 second commercial for the Packers Fan Podcast and play it during the Super Bowl.
There you go. Let's do it. we got to get into the Super Bowl though, because otherwise it would be really silly to promote a Packers podcast when they're not even in the Super Bowl.
Oh no, we could find a way to make it relevant. Definitely. Okay. Like have it trigger, like if the Chiefs are winning by 5 touchdowns, that's when it triggers that we play the Packers Fan Podcast.
Fair enough.
I don't know. But so the Super Bowl, and there's 6 or 7 more episodes of Doctor Who this season. So I've got the Don't Blink podcast at don'tblinkpodcast.com. Last night's episode was very clever and very educational as well, as far as Tesla's history on the East Coast back in the day. So they covered it very well without getting preachy. So that was good. Don'tblinkpodcast.com.
Interesting. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I also have another podcast called The Gaming Outsider, which is all about video games. You can hear that at the same place you listen to this one. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing the bevy of delays in the video game world that took place this past week and whether or not we think that is a good thing. Also, we're reviewing a couple of new games. I've been playing a game on my Switch called Ring Fit Adventure. It's an exercise game, if you'd believe it. And this thing kicked my butt, Wayne. I'm not even joking. This thing, I'm still sore from Saturday when I worked out with a video game. So you'll want to check that out. Our website is thegamingoutsider.com.
And so that game doesn't tie into your video doorbell in any way, shape, or form?
My video doorbell?
It rings something?
Oh, no. It's called Ring Fit Adventure because it comes with a peripheral that is in the shape of a ring, and you slide one of the controllers into it, and you hold it in front of you, and you squeeze it together or pull it apart. You strap another one to your leg so you can run in place and do all these calisthenics and stretches and yoga poses. It's actually a lot of fun. They kind of made like an adventure out of exercise, but I played it on the hardest level of difficulty because it asks you like how much do you exercise, and I exercise quite frequently. That turns out it might have been a mistake.
They got you there. That's what you get.
I am so sore, man. You have no idea. But yeah, who knew I get sore from playing a video game?
You should instead tie it into your Ring doorbell. That could be a different adventure. Now, what do you mean by a bevy of delays in video games?
Oh, there has been. Well, we've got a new console generation coming out later this year, and we assume that that's the cause for it, but we don't know. But some of the massive titles that were supposed to come out this spring have been pushed back to fall.
Ouch!
Which is leaving a huge gap in the release schedule for the spring, which is kind of a bummer. So, especially because some of our community have actually requested vacation days to align with the release of some of these days because they just want to take the time to play through their game, and now that game's not going to come out. So. I'm talking, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Dying Light 2, there's an Iron Man VR game, and an Avengers game that all got pushed back. Some further than others, but it's leaving not a ton of stuff coming out in the first half of the year, and as a gamer, that's a little frustrating. So
I can only imagine. I guess a lot of vacation rescheduling, and you'll get to the bottom of it if you go to E3, right?
Well, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, we still have a lot of questions about the new consoles that are supposed to come out this year, but lots of questions, lots of looking for a lot of answers, for sure.
Yeah, so with football season pretty much being over, at least for the Packers, it's sad. But you can get caught up on your video games and be sure to check out Scott's thegamingoutsider.com. Check out the podcast, play some games, even the ones that aren't out just yet. Be ready. Plan your vacations. Go Pack Go.
Bryant, your continued support of the show at the $24 Willie Wood pledge level is epic and very much appreciated. Thank you, and Go Pack Go. Also, at the $12 a month level, our friends in the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics Facebook group, Go Pack Go, and thank you very much.
And coming in hot at the Brett Favre $4 a month Patreon level, Jeff Summerfield, thank you. Lawrence Harvey, thank you. And Curly Lambo, $1 a month support level. Matt Haig, Hank Davis from the TPE network of podcasts, Joe Christensen, and Aaron Peterson that you heard earlier from the Hollywood Outsider. Check out how you too can help financially support the podcast at a level to match your budget. Even get some cool Packers Fan Podcast logo merchandise. Details at patreon.com/PackersFanPodcast. Thank you, and go, Pack, go!
And for the last time this season, we'd like to remind you that we are the unofficial Packers fan podcast, not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers, but we'd love to be, just saying. If you're interested in contacting us, our email is media@PackersFanPodcast.com.
And follow us on Twitter for all of our shenanigans at PackersFanPod, at GoCastScott, and at Wayne Henderson. And like we mentioned earlier in the show a few times, one more time with feeling, please join the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community by going to PackersCommunity.com and join the conversations.
Normally, we would ask you to get your feedback in by Sunday night at 11 p.m. Central. There's not going to be a game for us next week, but we will post something on our Facebook group and on Twitter if we are going to have a podcast up so we can get your feedback. You can head over to PackersFanPodcast.com and click the Contact Us button for details. Thanks again for joining us on the Packers Fan Podcast.
And be sure to subscribe and stay subscribed so you don't miss an episode when they do come out. But it is now time for the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics group to send us off to the offseason on a high note.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack, go!